What do you mean?
It's starting right now. He was right on time.
We were very close. And a lot of people have retired and they went to school. Then COVID hit, and we didn't get hard. The bottom line is that they also have been doing other things like consolidation. Like last year when they started taking machines out of facilities. So right now, they're in the midst of, by February, there's an 18.
I'm sorry, you heard what about my wife?
They're planning on taking all the mail processing.
Well, she ran a lot of things when I was in France, but
first class letters going through the machine.
I'm sure she was in the, she handled a lot of the mail that would come into the office because it still came to the same
And so they're
print shop.
consolidating, not just consolidating, they're moving stuff to a facility that has no rules, no immediate staffing, and that's where our problem is.
Well, she was working
today, and it's still there at the same station.
Another bit of it. Don't you believe a word of it?
I don't know much how long it's going to work, because I know COVID is up again. And so we're very concerned about it. And then today we have a postal governance meeting.
Hi, I'm Emily.
Had some issues with the Board of Governors, and we've been trying to get new people on board. So Biden has 2 nominees. I think they're here to death, and they're supposed to be getting on the board within the next month or so. And here we go. We've got our Postmaster General having an early meeting to a chairperson before the other 2 people come on board. So there's a lot of politics going on as well, and so we're just trying to let the public know that we need their help to help support keeping postal service public. And that's
There you go. You guys are what? Channel 7?
Okay.
And that would be what? On the noon
If you're here to try to save the postal service, can you do me a favor and move behind the podium so you can get in the shot?
Thank
so
you
it
very much.
looks like there's lots of us.
Yes. Okay.
Do you want to come closer? I feel like we're not we don't have to be that far back together.
All right. We'll start. My name is Dennis O'Neill. I am a retired mail processor, and in the course of my career, we've been through a lot. Wildcats in New York and a couple other places, wildcat strikes. The great anthrax scare of 2001, and other things. But this is sort of the biggest, most prolonged crisis that the Postal Service has been in. And the small number of us here, who include veteran postal workers and supporters of the Postal Service, including, it doesn't get much more veteran than Benjamin Franklin, the man who founded the U.S. Postal Service, which is, for those who don't know, older than the United States, because it was passed at the second Congress of the states, and it wasn't until the third that they got around to we the people, et cetera, et cetera. So, all right, I'm going to start this out with a trick question for everybody here, and particularly for those of you who are watching at home on video or YouTube. It's getting around, and we really thank the people from DC. What's the name?
Shutdown DC.
I can't read that far away. I'm old.
Shutdown DC.
Shutdown DC, my name.
Shutdown DC and the television. The Shutdown DC, I remember. Anyway, I want to start out for everybody with a trick question. How many of you know who the Postmaster General was before Louis DeJoy? Show of hands. Debbie, keep it down. Postal workers don't count. All right. How many of you 2 years ago, before this whole Michigas started, actually knew that the U.S. had a Postmaster General? Oh, we got another couple hands, and Benjamin Franklin, of course, as our first knew it. But I want you to think about just how remarkable, how amazing Louis DeJoy is. Nobody knew we had a Postmaster General. And this shifty, dishonest, corrupt character is so widely loathed by the people of this country that a political cartoonist can just draw a sketch of him and maybe write DeJoy on it, but they don't have to write Postmaster General DeJoy or anything. And so we're going to explain a little bit about what's going on here today. And before Ben gets to say his piece, I would like to turn the mic over to Debbie Soretti, who is in the national leadership of the American Postal Workers Union and who has been fighting this fight from the beginning. Deb?
Yes, so what's happening today is we have a surprise Board of Governors meeting that's going to be held at 4 o'clock. Originally, Okay. Today we're going to be having a Postal Board of Governors meeting at 4 o'clock. It was a surprise meeting. The original public meeting was scheduled for February 8th, which is a public open session where the public is allowed to be able to come in and to sit in and listen to the Board of Governors give their report. And today, this surprise meeting, they're going to be voting on a chairperson. Our President Biden has already made his appointees, 2 new appointees for the board, and they have to be vetted by the Senate, but they would be coming on soon. However, here we have a Postmaster General who is holding a meeting and taking a vote for a chairperson before the 2 can get on board. Something doesn't sound right to us about that, and we're very concerned about that because it's taking away our democracy. The second thing that is concerning is that we're still involved in having consolidations going on across the country where they are taking out machines that handle first-class mail. First-class mail ballots, voting ballots is first-class mail. And machines are being taken out of facilities and they are changing our network and cutting our network down so that it becomes just a business of parcels and packages. That is not what the Postal Service is here for. So many of people around the country are very concerned about this, and we're just trying to spread the message to get people involved, communities involved in saving their post offices, and to make sure that we are a service organization, that we're what we became way back when in the 1970s when we were talking about a service obligation to be able to provide good service. We also are going to be giving out, doing the delivery of COVID-19. That could have happened a long time ago, but there's so much game playing going on, and we really need to save our service because we can really help this country make a difference. Whether it's a disaster, whether it's the situation with COVID, voting rights, and my God, we can't even get three of the bills across that are on voting rights. So every time you turn around, you have to be concerned about what is our country going through right now. And the Postal Service is a key component to voting rights. And to make sure that that mail, those ballots get there to the people to vote, and it gets back in time to the election official to be counted. This is, it's just so important for us. So we're hoping that all of you keep your ears open, watch the news, get involved in your community groups, and make sure that we save our public postal service.
And it is that now you're hearing from the current day struggle of the Postal Service. But we're going to have a special treat today, as I mentioned before. We are dipping back in history. Benjamin Franklin, our first Postmaster General, and the guy who laid out all the postal routes, the post roads. If you ever lived in New England or other sections on the East Coast, there's always the post road, the Boston Post Road, this post road. That's called that because that's where the mail moved. That was what tied the country together at the beginning. So Ben, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to say a word. Thank you for the invitation to be here today. I'm not sure, as I'm not a public speaker, that I can make much sense of this, but I should try. You know, the Postal Service provides a service. A service. It is not a business. It's not supposed to be making a profit such as my printing business. And I think it's important that anyone who runs the operation, such as I did, recognizes that the service is ultimately the most important thing that it can do. And if it cannot do that, it has failed to live up to the nature of the requirement set out in the Constitution, which I signed, which of course is the responsibility of Congress to look after and maintain, and us. But it's important that we look after the service of the post operation. If we don't, we have failed the men who are working as carriers and sorters. We, for that matter, are failing the horses who are carrying the men and the mail. My word, we should not allow that. And if we don't have someone in this organization who is in fact recognizing the need for the service, I think it's possibly the time to change that person and get someone new.
Yes.
Indeed. I do appreciate again the time to speak to you. Thank you very much. I think I have said all I can say. Thank you.
As Debbie pointed out, this demonstration was called hastily. We were planning to have a larger one, and if they try to have another meeting in February, we will have a larger one. But we thought the game playing that was going on required a response to call people's attention to what is going on. And make no mistake about it, among the things that is most important about the Postal Service is in fact its role in American elections. And everybody knows about the ballots, and we've talked about it, and Emily here is going to talk more about it. But we just had a primary season in New York some months ago, and my mailbox was stuffed full of glossy cards and postcards and mailers and so on by various candidates for office, like, you know, city council, district attorney for the different boroughs, et cetera, et cetera. And it occurred to me, I've got a stack of them, and at some point I'll try to do something with them, that this is another service, to use the term, that the Postal Service provides, because you can't advertise on television in a market like New York. If you're running for a city council seat in one precinct or one county, you need to be able to reach a lot of people inexpensively. And we do that. Now, I'm sure most people probably look at this stuff and go, oh God, and you know, where's the paper recycle basket? But some of them look at it and see it and recognize the name, and then if somebody does pop up on the TV news or something, they go, wait a minute. So that is another way, and not a particularly heralded one, that the Postal Service itself serves to make possible democracy in a wealthy, busy country of, what is it now, 330 million people. Is we don't just get the ballots to people, we help candidates get their messages to people in a way that they can't otherwise do it. So I want to turn over now to here, Emily Yen. I will take her sign from her. And she's going to talk a little bit more about this election stuff and what happened last year and now.
Hello, my name is Dr. Emily Yen. I am from Charlottesville, Virginia. I am the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America Labor Chair for Charlottesville DSA, as well as one of the leads on this Dump DeJoy to Protect the Vote campaign, which is a national campaign. And I see the dismantlement and degradation of the post office as a very, very, very serious issue. I am very disappointed by Postmaster DeJoy's handling of our beloved national treasure. Being able to have reliable service is a national treasure. And for our economy to operate, to be able to have a small business is contingent on having reliable service that delivers to every single address in the United States of America, regardless of where you live, regardless if you are in a rural area in Alaska. It costs the same amount to ship a first-class piece of mail. And if we want to have prosperity in our country, to be able to have opportunities in our country, we need a functional postal service. So many governmental services are contingent on this service, and so if our postal service continues to degrade, we will not be able to have a functional economy or a functional democracy. In 2020, 46% of Americans who voted in that presidential election voted by mail or absentee ballot. That is almost half of ballots cast in that paramount election. And in order for ballots to continue to arrive on time, where there were problems in the election, but the post office made a huge effort. We need to have a functional post office. We need the post office to not slow down the mail. The mail has already been slowed down, and if it continues to get slowed down, this is going to affect election after election. I'm a Virginia resident. I worked on the Democratic campaign, and there were problems with mail-in ballots especially in some of these very close precincts in Virginia on these on these state delegate races that were very, very close, that were determined by less than 1%. And there were people whose mail-in ballots did not arrive. And we cannot have a democracy in which the ballots are being delayed. We can't have a democracy if our votes are not going to count. There's going to be so many elections, probably in 2022, that are going to be decided on very, very slim margins, and every vote should count. Every vote should count. And in order for this to happen, we need a functional post office that delivers mail on time, that there's no slowdowns, that regardless of where you live, you can use it equitably. And I am very concerned that this is not going to happen in the 2022 midterms. And I am really terrified that we're heading into this with a postmaster who is actively trying to dismantle the post office. I strongly believe that the problem is going to get worse unless we remove DeJoy from office. We need a postmaster that supports the post office. I mean, one should support the institution that they work for. That has the public's trust and is competent. And I do not think that Louis DeJoy is any of these things. And I think that the Postal Board of Governors needs to take a principled stance and put someone in that office who is competent, trustworthy, and has the post office's best interest at heart and the American people's best interest at heart, not his own profit as his motivation. So I really, really urge the Board of Governors to serve the American people. Thank you very much.
I want to say, we mentioned earlier, and for those who weren't watching or who just got here, obviously we would like a larger demonstration here. We had a stealth meeting of the Board of Governors called less than a week ago, and we are trying to respond to it to call the attention of not just the people here, but whoever is watching this on the news, on Facebook, et cetera, to do this. Pay attention to what is going on. Now, we have the other aspect, of course, in the numbers is we are in the middle of a spike in COVID-19, the Omicron. Fortunately, evidently, not as deadly as the earlier spikes, but man, that thing climbs like this, and in DC it still is. So a lot of people, I think, sensibly are staying home during events like this and not going. You'll notice everybody here is masked. You'll notice everybody here is distanced. And I want to call people's attention to the fact that one of the things that is being talked about and that the Postal Service, the Board of Governors is claiming is, that they're trying to work on leadership. Well, I am here to tell you that the leadership of the Board of Governors, and particularly of Postmaster General DeJoy in the coronavirus crisis, has been catastrophic. You've probably seen as the season was heating up for the holidays, postal spokespeople were quoted in the papers and were on TV saying, "Oh, we got this thing knocked. Never mind it. We're on top of it. We're bullshit." What is it, Debbie? Like something like 12,000 people are now on quarantine out of the postal workforce. That's 12,000 people. We have folks who are letter carriers who have been working 12-hour days, 6 and 7 days a week for months. And it's getting worse because more people are getting sick, even if they're not in the hospital. They have to quarantine, they have to stay out, and that's what's happening to local mail delivery. And it's clearly an issue here in Washington, D.C., but it's an issue around the country. There are sections of Maine where they haven't had delivery in a month, and that's because the Rona has knocked out a significant portion of the postal workforce. And these bozos, if you'll pardon my informal locution, these malefactors have done a terrible job of dealing with them. They have not enforced their own rules. They have not instructed their management. They haven't done the kind of thing. Look, a lot of postal stuff takes place in large sorting institutions and larger post offices. How hard would it be to set up a place to vaccinate people at all the large post offices and then a little portable one to move it around from place to place? We would have a much larger section of the postal workforce vaccinated and boosted and all of that, and even if they were hit, they would be much safer and much more able to carry out the job. Now we're hearing reports from workers of management saying, "Come in. So what if your kid has it? You don't, or you don't know that you do. Come to work." Postal management is not an impressive collection of individuals by and large. So if you're not getting your mail and they say, well, there's nothing we can do about it, well, there may not be much you can do about it now, but if you had started, say, February of March of 2020, when the thing was starting to get bad, well, maybe you could have had something in place. Other institutions have done it and done it well. Their workforces aren't collapsing. United Airlines is one that's been in the news. Ours has not. So when they're bragging about their leadership and about their on-time deliveries, which is a lie, we need to hold them accountable. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do here. Now, there was a sister here a moment ago was talking about delivery in your community. Yes. Were you out there, not just in the Channel 7 News catch basins, but around the country, exactly what you're experiencing?
Sure thing. My name is Chelsea Rudman. I live in Mount Rainier, Maryland. Most of my community has not gotten mail in 3 weeks. Our local listserv is mostly now just posts from people asking each other, have you gotten mail yet? Have you gotten mail yet? And almost no one has. There'll be maybe one delivery every 10 days. We're very sympathetic that some delivery folks are out with COVID, but this has been an ongoing problem since DeJoy took over, so I don't think COVID's the only thing that's going on here. Our mayor's asking questions, we're asking our representatives questions, and we want to know what's going on because each morning when we go out and look at the mailbox, there's nothing there. So, we're not the only community experiencing this. As other folks here have said, the Postal Service is a service, not a business. That's why DeJoy has to go. Thanks, brother.
Thank you. I'm going to grab a phone here. We've been talking about this, and we've been talking about the Board of Governors, and also Louis DeJoy, the Postmaster General. I'm going to talk about him a little more. You can see I've got a anti-DeJoy. So yes, please. Ben is holding this up, and this is appropriate for him because it says keep them open. It's a community right. Okay? DeJoy is best known among people who are following this stuff for what he calls the 10-year plan to reform the Postal Service. He has already forced through step one of the 10-year plan, which is changing the delivery standards. Until recently, the Postal Service promised to deliver mail any place in the country within 3 days. And they did pretty good at it. So, upwards of 90%, sometimes as high as 95%. Now, this is what, I'm not a real sports person, but I believe the term moving the goalposts applies here. He changed the delivery standards, so now, no matter where you are, much of the country is now in a 5-day zone or a 4-day zone. So they can say, oh, look, we're meeting our delivery standards, which sounds good, except they're not. The Postal Board, the Postal Regulatory Commission and the Office of the Inspector General checks up on this stuff. And guess what? They are still under 90%, even with a much easier set of standards to carry out. So, this is part of the thing that's going on. And people say, well, why? And the official reason is it's too expensive and we don't want to put stuff on airplanes. We want to set up a network of trucks. You'll never guess what business Louis DeJoy was in before He did, right. He ran trucking firms. So he has set this thing up in such a wise that the delays mean that they can mostly go by trucks. And I was talking with a friend who's an active unionist in the flight attendants union.
Introduce yourself again.
Oh, all right. I'm instructed to introduce myself for people who haven't had the great pleasure of meeting me. My name's Dennis O'Neill. I'm a retired postal worker, and I'm from New York. I worked for many years in the Morgan Station, big post office, largest, actually probably the largest industrial facility in Manhattan, among other things, largest sorting facility in the whole system. And now I am fighting to save this system, as are many others. The thing I wanted to say about this whole business of changing standards, this is all part of something Debbie, who spoke earlier, talked about. They have this new system with surface transfer centers. These things are being run, they're being leased by the post office for private firms who hire people to sort and move your mail who aren't postal workers. They are not trained, they do not take the oath, they are not subject to the rather onerous oversight that makes sure that nobody is stealing your shit. And in particular, they don't have the loyalty to the Postal Service. I mean, I never thought I would do this, especially when I was an active duty postal worker and spent most of my time griping about the supervisors and stuff. But I actually have a loyalty to the U.S. mail. And the reason for that, I think more than anything else, is it is the commons. It belongs to all of us. It is not for profit. And one of the things that's going on in this country now is they are trying to commodify and basically turn all of the commons into ways of making a buck. People have also seen this, and again, a tip of the hat to Ben. In libraries, there are now private firms who are trying to buy up libraries or sign long-term contracts with libraries, where they take the library's budget and sort of thin the herd so there aren't too many books to distract people who come into the library. And all of this is to make a buck. And we think that that's a particularly rotten way of proceeding. I'm going to thank, I have to thank before we start to close up here, but I want to thank the folks from Shutdown DC, who are doing the videotaping and stuff, and who played a really, I think, important role last year. When this stuff was first going on, they had a nice big rally in front of DeJoy's house. That was when we were first, most people hadn't even heard of him still, but they knew what was going on. They have their ear to the ground in DC, not just in the communities, but also in the political world. And they said, this is not going to fly. Didn't you have a go-go band at that thing? They actually brought out a go-go band, which is the state music, if we ever get statehood here in DC, the state music of Washington. And that would let postal management and let people in DC and around the country know that it's on. And I'm closing by saying it's still on. We had a couple other people who were supposed to be coming. We were going to try to hook up something on the phone to do it, but I think we've given enough of an idea of what's going on. And these, can I say so-and-sos on PBS? These so-and-sos up there are supposed to be having another board meeting in February, We don't trust them to do so, but if they call it, we will be here again, and we actively encourage you to come back, those of you who are here, and those of you who are watching and are within striking distance of Washington, D.C., to please come, make your voices heard, save our postal service. And that last point, save our postal service, is, I want to, if you take out your little laptop or phone, or if you're old school, your pen, your pencil, your tattooing needle, that's the name of this campaign. It's called Save Our Postal Service, and you can find it on Facebook. Just go to Facebook, enter Save Our Postal Service, and there's a page there. We put up new stuff every day on the struggle around the Postal Service, and periodically we have notifications of things that people can do to help advance this. So with that, I conclude, and let me just, well, we got enough people here. Let's try a chant, all right? Louis DeJoy must go. Louis DeJoy must go. Louis DeJoy must go. Louis DeJoy must go.
Louis DeJoy must go. Louis DeJoy must go.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing all of you here again. And I look forward to all of you who are watching this, streaming now and later on YouTube or whatever, to please get actively involved in this. Call your Congress critters. Make sure that people know that the struggle to save the People's Service is still on. Thank you.
Yes, here, here. Thank you.